Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today to talk about QuickBooks Online tools for us tax accountants. One of the things that historically has not occurred is tax accountant-facing training from Intuit. And it's no surprise with upwards of 90-some-odd% renewal rates on its professional tax product offerings. There hasn't been a lot of need to do training in order to maintain those sales levels. And now, obviously, Intuit starts to see how important it is for those of us accounting professionals who are engaged and ready for all things that cloud has to offer. This is going to create really a new platform for us to be able to work with our clients on the transaction level, as well as be able to take the sum of those transactions, our trial balance, and get that into a tax return. So with that, I'm going to just do a brief introduction, not because it's very important to know who I am, but just to know the perspective from which I come. I'm a CPA, local CPA here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm in the East Bay, and the majority of my revenue is from tax preparation. So in addition to the excitement in talking about the tools we have within QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Online Accountant, I'm excited just to take a break from 1120S's today. So if you have a scenario that's any way similar to mine, our inbox starts to blow up about this week, and we'll continue through the season. So I am QuickBooks Online Advanced Certified, and desktop for that matter, and I'm a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network. So as we go through today, I'll be giving examples that come from my practice. I have about 200 returns in total, and about 60% of those returns are business returns. So a high business percentage evidencing the QuickBooks Online tie-in. So in terms of CPE, it's important to stay here for the whole training. I know you will. You're excited about hearing about this stuff anyway, but in terms of CPE, you have to be here for the entire training, and you have to respond to all of the polling questions during the session. So keep that in mind. We're going to be putting up polls. We'll give you plenty of time to be able to complete the polls, and then that will enable your eligibility for CPE, and you'll get those CPE certificates emailed to you within about a week. So here is our agenda today. This is a relatively new nuance to talking about QuickBooks Online Accountant and the tools and reports, and finally talking about the integration with ProConnect Tax Online, which is Intuit's cloud-based ProTax offering. So I'm going to save some syllables today and refer to QuickBooks Online Accountant, the lens through which we see our clients' QuickBooks Online, as QBOA, and talk about QuickBooks Online itself as a core product that is used for our clients in recording their transactions as just QBO. So talking about QBO and QBOA. So with that, we're actually going to test your ability to successfully complete the poll by putting up polling question number 1 right now. So when the polling question comes up, then you'll have a couple of minutes to be able to take the poll. And the hesitation in my voice is because I thought you would see it by now. There it is. Thank goodness. So take a couple of minutes to complete the poll. And actually, while you're completing that poll, I wanted to emphasize that there is a Q&A panel, and that is the right way, the only way, in fact, to be able to communicate with me. One of the really fun things about virtual conferences and webinars is that I, as a presenter, have no audio and no visual feedback other than the Q&A panel. So if you have questions, if I say something that doesn't sound right to you, I'm going too slow or too fast, I'd love to hear about it. One of the things I've learned from Intuit is just how effective that feedback loop can be. So I highly recommend that if you have questions related to the content, you let us know within the Q&A panel. And we're also very fortunate to have some other folks who are able to answer the questions as I'm talking. As anyone knows who knows me, I would be unable to talk and type in answers to questions at the same time. So what we'll do is just use the Q&A panel, and if I see something, I may choose to call it out. I think we've got just maybe 20 seconds or so left. Of course, it's really important that everyone has ample time to complete the polling question, because we want as many people as possible to be able to get CPE. So, and you can see you should be able to see the countdown clock. So, this is not padding for time. This is just to make sure everyone has time to complete the polling question. Okay, so with that, we're going to talk first about the benefits of using QBOA, just in a very general way. When we're talking about QuickBooks Online Accountant, as opposed to using a desktop accounting application, and in the United States, when we refer to desktop accounting application, in most cases, we're talking about QuickBooks Desktop. So as compared to using QuickBooks Desktop or any other desktop application, the advantage of being in the cloud is as simple as being able to launch a browser on a mobile device or tablet, or even on a laptop or Chromebook for that matter, just to be able to operate and do everything that you would otherwise do with desktop applications with a browser. So the big advantage to using QBOA is that you don't have to install any applications. You don't have to play the data exchange game with clients. There's a question about whether I use ProConnect Tax Online, which formerly was called ITO, and the answer is yes. And so I'm going to talk about that towards the end of this session, as well as the next session in depth. So I think about one of the big advantages, aside from the security and aside from not having to install the application, is that we've just got immediate access to our clients' books, and we can work in them without interrupting our client's normal workflow. Now, as compared to the accountant copy option, which is available within QuickBooks Desktop, this means that it's really a matter of interruption and ease. So you can use accountant's copy within QuickBooks Desktop, where your client creates an accountant's copy exchange file, a .qbx file, that you then turn into an accountant's copy working file, a .qba, and then you can send back a .qby. So all for them to import into their data file. So all of that data exchange game that goes on, and all of the links along the way that might encounter difficulty, are eliminated with QuickBooks Online. So we're able to get into our clients' books, particularly outside of tax season. And I think that's critical to point out, that it means that, for example, a client of mine is a roofing contractor.
audio issue going on, so I'm assuming you guys can hear me. But
yeah, I can hear you, but we're checking on that right now. Thanks.
Okay, great. So if you guys cannot hear me, we're working on it. Appreciate your patience.
All right, testing audio. Test, test.
Yeah, hopefully my audio is improved.
How about now? Elizabeth, can you hear Bryce as an attendee?
I'm not sure what you're asking. I came in as...
No, I'm sorry. I'm asking just someone, one of the administrators, to see if, because she can...
okay.
She's in it as attendee.
She's in it as an attendee.
Yeah, you're good. They both say you're good, so thank you, Bryce, for that.
Great. Sure.
All right, guys.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. Go ahead.
All right, guys, I think we're set now. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. So, and now back to our story. So, in terms of QuickBooks Online Accountant, QBOA, what we have is the ability to look into what's going on with our clients' books without even always going in to the client's books. So when we're looking at our client list, we can go into the client's books. We can click on the QB icon that's there within the status column, and that'll take us into the client's books. If we click instead on the client's name, that'll take us to be able to see details about the client. So if we click on the client's name, that'll give us information about what's going on within those clients' books. And the reason for my pause is my expectation is that the slide would advance. Is it me? Here we go. It's just a little longer delay than I would have anticipated. So here you can see when you click on the client's name, you can see what's going on in the client's company without going into the books per se. And one of the things we can see right at the outset, we've got all of these accounts, and we can see the last date that these accounts were reconciled. So this Chase account, let's say it's time for us to prepare the corporate tax return for Larry's Landscaping and Garden Supply. We can see that the reconciliation, the last one that's been done for that Chase account, was in last October. So we want to make sure that those reconciliations get up to date. We can also see what's going on for within payroll, and we have a place that we can put documents related to this client. So if you want to get into the client's books from here, from the client detail page, you can do that simply by clicking in the upper right where it says it's got the QuickBooks icon and then plus, which is the subscription level. We can click on that to get into the client's books. So we've got this ability to not only see all of our clients in a client list, but be able to click on a client and then see what's going on within that client's company, all from within QBOA, all without even going into the client's books. So in addition to the ability to see what's going on with our clients' books, we have the ability to manage a team within QBOA. So we have the ability to add team members. So just to put this in perspective by example, if we have, I'm a sole proprietor, I work with multiple pro advisors, you may have the situation where you have every client sign up with one email address. So admin@firm.com, meaning your firm is just named firm, and you own that domain, firm.com. Then you can have every client invite you as admin@firm.com. So with that start point, you can then add as many users as you would like under that admin@firm.com login. So a user can have any email address. It does not need to be in the same domain as the admin user. And once you have that main user set up, then you can add as many other team members as you would like. So you really have the ability to have an unlimited number of accountant users within a QBO company. So through the use of the team. Since I work with multiple pro advisors, sometimes the pro advisor, the person who's working with the transactions, is the one to invite me as a team member. And other times, if I've had a tax client for years and they're going to be working with a pro advisor on the transactions subsequent to me, then I might invite that pro advisor as a team member. It doesn't really matter which way you do it. You just have to decide what works for you in terms of how you present yourself to the client. So I'm just waiting for the slide to switch here. We're going to talk next about accountant tools. And my apologies for the delay. I know that's one of the tragedies within a virtual conference is having to wait for the slide to advance. There seems to be some delay on almost every slide. So we've got tools within QBOA that allow us to do things that the client may not have the ability to do. And also, we've got the ability to go to the places that we're going to go most often and do the things that we're going to commonly do. So you can see this list by clicking on the briefcase, if you will, in the upper left. You can see all of the things that are accountant tools. So we can see at the very top, we've got trial balance. We're going to talk about that towards the end. And we've got these tools for reclassifying transactions. This is something that we have within Client Data Review, similar in QuickBooks Desktop. And we've got it all in one place. So some are shortcuts just to get us where we're going most often as an accounting professional or a tax preparer. And some are actual tools that are available pretty much exclusively to us. So at the very top of the list, we see trial balance. I think I know what's going on with the audio. I think I should be back if you can give me some quick feedback. Now I see what's okay. Now I see what's happening. It's absolutely my bad, and I can correct it now very quickly. So apologies again. So we've got this ability to reclassify transactions for our clients who inadvertently code a number of transactions to the wrong account. If that happens, we can go in and reclassify a block of transactions that are coded directly to an expense account. Or even in the case of transactions that are posted to a balance sheet account that need to be reclassified to an expense account. For example, what comes to mind is we now have a new de minimis asset purchase limit of $2,500 instead of the previous $500. So I had a client posting a number of transactions to fixed assets, and I was able to use Reclassify Transactions to move all of those transactions into office expense because we no longer need to capitalize any single purchase that is under or up to $2,500. We've got a voided deleted transactions report, so we can look to find out if we know that we've anchored the books to the tax return. Our work is done. We did a journal entry. Somebody else at the company may not understand what the function of a journal entry or what it was designed to do. So we can go in and find out if our transactions are getting deleted and then recreate them and then correct the behavior, of course, in the future. So as we go to just through some images of these tools, the first one we're going to show is the Reclassify Transactions tool. So if you click on the Accountant Toolbox in the upper left and then choose Reclassify Transactions, this is the screen that you'll see. Notice on the left side, we've chosen the office supplies expense account. On the right side, what we'll see is all of the transactions that were posted to office supplies. And we can see that with this one vendor, we really have a number of transactions that we want to go to a different expense account. We select those transactions. Now I'm getting feedback. Is it just me? We select those transactions, then choose the account that we want to change, and then when we choose Reclassify, all of those transactions will be moved to the account that we specify. So it takes it away from the bad account, which in this case is office supplies, and moves it to the good account, which in this case is building repairs. So next we're going to show just the image of the voided, deleted transactions report, which just came up now. And you can see on the left, you can actually filter this even more. So the voided, deleted transactions report is basically an audit log that is customized just for transactions that are voided or deleted. And then further, when you have this report up, you can filter it to specify a given user or given transactions. So you can see all the things that you can filter through to narrow in on what you have curiosity about determining there. And then there are some other tools that we have available on the Accountant Toolbox. And so we'll just show a quick screenshot back to the kind of Accountant Toolbox overall here. And my pause is that I'm trying to read a question and talk at the same time. That doesn't really work out very well. So here we've got the ability to write off invoices. And we're going to go through that in detail. It's important to know what it does on the kind of behind the scenes. We've got the ability to create adjusting journal entries. We've got the ability to very quickly close the books, meaning lock off any editing or deleting or adding transactions to a prior period. And then we've got the ability, of course, to reconcile transactions. So starting with the Write Off Invoices tool. I love this tool and have some hesitation about using this tool all at the same time. What I think is great about this tool, as you'll see in a minute, here we go, is that you can select a given period, say invoices that are older than 120 days, those that are likely not to be paid. If somebody's been waiting a third of the year to pay, chances are likely that our client is not going to get paid. So we may want to write those off. And we can generate a report. And that's what I love about this tool. We can see all of the invoices that are suspect, if you will. Then we do have the option to click on that blue button in the lower right where we say preview and write off. And then it'll show you all of these invoices, and that's what we're seeing in the center of the screen. And you can write those invoices off. What's, I think, critical to know for us as tax professionals is to know that when you choose to write off those invoices, what it's going to do is add a discount line item to each and every one of those invoices to basically negate the total amount of the invoice. So it'll make it a zero amount invoice, and that means that the write-off will have occurred on the same date as the original invoice date. So I think about writing off invoices as something that occurs as of a given date and not something that is kind of like a void tool. I don't want it to reach back into history and start writing off invoices as of the original invoice date. While it's entirely possible that you may have some of those scenarios, or if you're doing writing off invoices very regularly, maybe it doesn't matter whether it happens in February or happens at the end of the year. So I use it simply to gather the information about what invoices need to be written off. You may secondarily use it to actually write off those invoices, but I just want to make clear what it's going to do, and it has the ability, not the ability, it has the function of adding a discount line item to the original invoice. So the way that I choose to write off invoices once I have that information is to actually use a journal entry. I know there are some accounting professionals out there who are hesitant to use journal entries for anything, and I think this is one appropriate purpose. So what's shown up here is really to talk about a different element of the journal entry, but just to finish that on the bad debt expense, I would debit bad debt expense for the total of the write-off, and then credit each and every one of the customers by choosing accounts receivable and then specifying that customer name. And you might be thinking, but wait a minute, I can't have more than one accounts receivable line in a single journal entry. That's never been the case with QuickBooks Desktop, but it is possible with QBO. So you can absolutely have multiple accounts receivable and or accounts payable line items in a single journal entry. So that is huge. I've got many clients who are using Desktop, and it is frustrating repeatedly to have to create kind of a dummy line to retained earnings for the AP or the AR or both, and then create basically a string of journal entries to be able to do the whole effect. So with QBO, you can absolutely have multiple accounts receivable and or accounts payable line items in a single journal entry. So next we're going to talk about the closing date. Now on the Accountant Toolbox, it is simply a shortcut. The other way to get to the closing date area would be to click on the gear icon, go into Account and Settings, and then under Advanced, you'll see the same thing. So the Accountant Toolbox just saves you those precious 3 clicks. So you can go in here and specify a closing date. That'll lock any transactions in prior periods to mitigate the risk against a prior period transaction being changed. And then optionally, you can add a password to make it more likely that your clients will obey the closing date. But if they don't, keep in mind that we have the ability just on QBOA, the very front client list screen, it will show you if a client has made a change to a closed period. So you will have that insight even if you just allow changes with a warning. So next we're going to talk about reconciliation. And what we're seeing on the screen here is a little bit previous style reconciliation, but here we're seeing the reconciliation report, and we can see each of the reconciliations that have been done, and we have a changes column and an auto adjustment column. So just so that you know what those columns mean, if you see an amount in the changes column, that means that a transaction that is included in that reconciliation has been edited. The amount has been changed. It may not always be the amount that's changed. I take that back. But something has been modified about that transaction. So that'll show up in the changes column. If you see an amount in the auto adjustment column, that means that when most often the client is in there attempting to do his or her own bank reconciliations, that client may not understand that the objective of the game is to get to 0 in terms of difference, and the client may choose Finish Now, and then a pop-up will come up and say, would you like QuickBooks to make an adjustment for this? So that forced reconciliation will show up as an auto adjustment. And that goes on the P&L to an account called Reconciliation Discrepancies. So if you see reconciliation discrepancies on the P&L, or you see an auto adjustment here in reconciliation, those are your indicators that a reconciliation has been forced. So there's a new style of reconciliation, and as far as I know, this is going to be rolling out automatically over time, so you may see this already. You may have enabled this within QuickBooks Labs, which is achieved by clicking on gear icon and then going to QuickBooks Labs. And then you'll see this type of interface, just a different way to do the same thing. And here we have two tabs, and that's what's depicted on the right. We've got our ability to reconcile accounts, and then we've also got the history of reconciliations that have been performed. So finally, in this topic of tools that we have as tax professionals, we've got some tips for efficiency for working within QBO. So one of the initial frustrations that I experienced going from desktop into QBO is that I really love having multiple windows open in any accounting application to be able to have reports up while I'm working on a reconciliation, or have a bank register open during that same reconciliation, or have multiple reports open simultaneously. I want to have multiple windows. And we do have that ability within QBO. It's really a function of the browser, not a function of the app per se, but we have the ability to duplicate a tab within Google Chrome. That's what's depicted here. So when you're in one, I'm so excited about it, I can't even get it out. So if you're in one window and you want to duplicate that window so that you could do something different on that second window, you simply right-click on the tab within Chrome and choose Duplicate. While that will create an exact duplicate of the tab that you have open, from the point that they are duplicated, they're independent. All within the same company, but they're independent windows. And because it's Chrome, you can tear it off. If you're in Windows, you can slam right, slam left to have half on one side of the screen, half on the other. You can drag them to multiple monitors if you have multiple monitors. So all of those options are available to have as many windows open simultaneously in one company as you would like. Also, one of the things I love about QuickBooks Desktop is the ability to be in two companies simultaneously. I'm a sole proprietor. Invariably, I'm working in my business books and in my personal books at the same time. You're accounting professionals. You have a set of personal books, right? It's not just me, crazy. So I want to have the ability to have both books open at the same time. And we do have that ability within QBO. Again, a function of the browser, and using Chrome as the example browser, you can actually create multiple Chrome identities, if you will. Chrome users, Chrome people, however you want to think about it. And that's what you're seeing in the lower left. We've got these great Chrome usernames like Awesome, Main Account, QBO User. So you can create multiple Chrome identities where when you're in, let's say you're in the Awesome user, where we always work, in that case you want to have a second company open. Another client calls, has a question about the books. You can then switch over to Main Account. You'll have to log in again because the second Chrome user doesn't know anything about the first Chrome user. And then you can be in a separate set of books. So if you want to be in 2 companies, 5 companies, 10 companies, all simultaneously, that is absolutely possible. And one of the ways it's possible is through using multiple Chrome users. Another way that you can affect the same outcome is to use different browsers. So you could be in Safari in one company and in Chrome in another company. So a final way, also within Chrome, but just not using the user concept, you can go incognito. So it's a creepy looking Chrome user, but it's perfectly legitimate and great for QBO. You'll just see a hat with some shady glasses. That just means Chrome is not going to remember what has occurred in that browser instance, but it's perfect for working within QBO. So next we're going to talk about accountant reports, and then finally we're going to talk about the integration between QuickBooks Online and ProConnect Tax Online, which used to be called Intuit Tax Online. So with that, we're going to go to our second polling question. And I'm going to take this time to review the questions in the question panel. So if you have a question that you were thinking about asking and you've been waiting, now would be a good time. I'm going to look through that. And then the polling question should be up there momentarily. There it is. So it looks to me that the questions are getting answered about as quickly as they're being asked. So one of the questions that came up that I'd like to share with everyone is about what happens if you have a closing date set. If you set a closing date within QBO, the next time a user attempts to edit, delete, or add a transaction within the closed period, so let's say now you're closing through 12/31/16, someone goes back to a November transaction and attempts to edit it, when that user goes to save, a pop-up will come up and say, hey, this transaction is in a closed period. Are you sure you want to do that? So that's the warning. And then if you have a password set, it will actually prompt the user to enter a password before allowing a change or an addition within the closed period. Another item that came up that I want to call out is about, I had described the bad debt scenario using a journal entry to write off bad debts. And the danger there is that if you have sales tax involved, it's not going to consider the sales tax. So of course, the best way to undo an invoice where no payment is expected is to issue a credit for that transaction, a credit memo, and that'll then put the sales tax back in the account. So the example I use would be appropriate for somebody who does not have sales tax involved. And then there's a question about Chrome as opposed to the I lost the question on my screen. So next we're going to talk about the reporting within QBO. So reporting within QBO, we've got some shortcuts within our Accountant Toolbox. So we've got a shortcut to Accountant Reports, which are reports that are specifically designed for us. We've got a shortcut to Management Reports, and then also to the My Custom Reports. So if you've done any customization to a report and saved those customizations, then it'll show up in My Custom Reports tab within the Report Center. And then finally, we've got Reports Tools, which allows us to set the date range and the reporting basis for the reports that we generate. I have to apologize again. It's not funny. I'm giggling, but there is a delay, and so I'm attempting to say things sort of like a foreign film. I'm saying things in a different metric than they actually occur on the screen. So what we're seeing now is the accountant reports. So if you click on the accountant toolbox and go to accountant reports, you'll see these reports like a trial balance, reconciliation reports, adjusted trial balance, things that really only we as the accounting professional would likely be interested in seeing. If you generate any report, you have the ability to customize that report. So this is just to highlight that you can customize the sort order, the period at the top. You can customize everything by clicking on the Customize button. And then once you do that customization, you have the ability to save the customization. That's the green button in the upper right. That'll allow you to name the report and then optionally share that report with other users in the company. And then down in the lower right, it's just showing that you can email, print, or export a given report. And then that final gear icon allows you to change what columns are shown within the report. We have the ability within QBO to prepare management reports, which are a more professional looking way to show reports. It allows us to start from a base, and then we can add other customized reports. So you may start with the P&L and a balance sheet, and then you may want to add an AR aging report, AP aging report. You can add other documents that you create to the report to have one entirely canned report set to be able to send to a client on a regular basis. And then I had talked previously about our ability to customize a report and then save the customization. So when you save customization for a report, it'll show up in your My Custom Reports area. And what's shown in the upper right is that you can actually set an email schedule for a given customized report. I'm hesitant to do so because I'm fearful that if I am not caught up on reconciliation, that the report will go out. It still will go out, even if you are not completed with your activities with that. So you can save customizations to your report, and then you can set a schedule to communicate those reports regularly. So we have this accountant tool called Reports Tools, and I love, love, love this. This is an easy delighter where we've got the ability to set defaults, and these win over what you have set in account and settings as far as reporting basis and period to report. So if you're frustrated that each time you run a report, you're getting last month and it's on a cash basis and you want it to be accrual, you have the ability to change that while you are logged in and running reports as the accountant user. And then finally, on the accountant toolbox, we have a few other things. They're just shortcuts. One is a shortcut to the chart of accounts. And the other is, it says new window. That's just another way to duplicate the tab. So if you're not using Chrome or simply don't like to right-click, you can use new window off the accountant toolbox. And then finally is a shortcut to ProConnect Tax Online. I'm going to save some more syllables and refer to that as PTO, which is the cloud-based tax application that Intuit offers. So Intuit has 3 offerings in the professional tax preparation. One is Lacert, the other is ProSeries, and the third, the only cloud-based solution, is ProConnect Tax Online. I'm a user of PTO. I have been for a few years, and while I would not want anyone to have to repeat my exact change to PTO, primarily because PTO was in its early phases at the time that I converted. I think today it is particularly familiar for a Lacert user. It has the input field kind of algorithm that Lacert uses as opposed to ProSeries, which is primarily forms-based entry. So it's input field and then seeing the outcome. All of this is cloud. All of this is your ability to just log into a browser. No software to install, no data to maintain. I think that is phenomenal to allow us to be truly virtual in terms of tax preparation. So in terms of ProConnect Tax Online working with QuickBooks Online, we have this trial balance feature, top item in the accountant toolbox. So what I think is important to know about this is that you've got the ability to work through your client's entries. You can make your own adjustments. You can then even attach documents or add notes So it's got this grid format working trial balance that speaks to the way in which we work as tax preparers. And then also, secondarily, it offers a big benefit in terms of data entry. That second tab over there is called Tax Mappings. It's not shown here on the slide, but it allows you to map. It says tax line mapping. It's really a mapping to an input field. And for anyone who is a Lacert user, you have my word that every single input field that is in Lacert is in ProConnect Tax Online. That was a great alleviation to me, being a former Lacert customer for over a decade. So keep in mind that it's got the ability to push those transaction totals, the trial balance, right into ProConnect Tax Online. Phenomenal efficiency in terms of data entry, and we're actually going to talk about that in the next session. So that's the cliffhanger there. So we're going to put up the polling question number 3 at this time. We're nearly to the end of our session, so I want to make sure you have time within our window to take the polling question to be eligible for your CPE. And I'll look through if there are any questions that you want to ask. Please feel free to do so. So I don't want to interrupt the polling question, but while you're filling that out, I just wanted to make sure and share appreciation for your taking this session. I hope to the extent you're a tax preparer, you'll join the session that starts in about 10 minutes, talking specifically about ProConnect Tax Online, how it integrates, and how to navigate within the tax preparation application. There's a question about whether QuickBooks Online Accountant will push into Lacert, and the answer is sort of yes and no. It's no in the sense that it's not direct in the same way it is to ProConnect Tax Online, but one of the things that you can do with trial balance is export to Excel. And one of the things that you can do with Lacert using Lacert Trial Balance Utility is import Excel into Lacert. So that's the yes and no of it, the full answer. I used Lacert Trial Balance Utility when I was a Lacert customer. I was going to say back in the day. And I found it to be phenomenally helpful with Excel. And there is a question about sort of the complexity of ProConnect Tax Online. And the reason I mentioned that every single input field that you have in Lacert is in ProConnect Tax Online is to make the point that while this is, it's stated as powered by Lacert, it is in effect, well, I don't want to say it the wrong way. I think about it as basically a very Lacert familiar interface. It's got a different look. It doesn't have the same features, some of which are in Lacert and only in Lacert. But overall, in terms of preparing a tax return, it has all of that ability. So there's a 5 for 25 screen. This is what I'll leave up in closing. And I want to thank you very much for attending the session today. And I hope if you're interested in ProConnect Tax Online, you'll stay for our next session that starts shortly.